this game. I have never played this one before. I have no idea what it's about. Werewolves. I don't want to stream Resident Evil right now. I want to play something different. You go ahead and do that. This is so loud.
Hey, Ivy.
Abele!
Come here.
Prologue. Premonition. So I've never played this. I have no idea what it's about. Oh, this game is about rage and how it helps us do things that need to be done as well as things that we later regret. Sometimes both. How do you feel about that? Huh. Great, I'm always angry. Okay with anger when it's useful. Well, I prefer to think before I act.
Never mind that.
Bro, I'm always angry. Your rage is high. So you're the inspired warrior type. That's okay. There's no right path here. Just your decisions and their consequences. Yeah, fuck the consequences. Let's start already. We have a story to tell. Oh, you know I gotta go with fuck the consequences. The woods are full of stars. They flicker, come closer, run away. They want me to chase them to play hide and seek. I'm gonna observe. I watch as they dance around the tree trunks, float up on the gusts of wind that shiver through the branches, disappear among the leaves. There are words in their dance, but I don't understand them, not yet. Then they bunch up and fly towards me like an arrow. Rushing down, they're soon upon me, but just before the spear of light pierces my breast, they disappear and the dark of the night returns. In the darkness, I feel the tangled roots of stories keeping the forest alive, and I finally catch the scent of the enemy. I jump forward, and then I wake up. Confused, I open my eyes. The forest around me is thick, dark, and reeks of decay, to such an extent that it's hard to breathe. Okay, so the smell fascinates me. I recognize this forest. Why am I here? The smell, both fascinating and repulsive, is everywhere. A memory stirs deep in my mind, something elusive from my earliest childhood. The tree trunks, wrapped tightly in dark-leaved ivy, are covered in ripples of lichen where the vines haven't taken hold. Thank you for the like! The thorny, leafless bushes at their base are overrun with nettles. The fungi radiate with a ghoulish, sickly green light. Dark, sponge-like mushrooms cling to the fallen trees. Try to breathe. I'm cold. Something is wrong. I try to breathe. I take a deep breath and suddenly realize that it's not the forest that smells so foul. It's me. I look down and see my hands covered in a dark substance. I'm naked. A sticky, glistening film of liquid is clinging to my skin. I can feel it on my face and in my hair. Blood. Shout at the forest. What's happening? I have no idea what's happening, but stories start forming in my mind. Someone has drawn strange symbols on my skin and the drying blood. Was it me? There is a severed head right in front of me. Oh, good. Some choices are hard to make, and they strain your willpower. So do I want to be... touch the severed head, or do I want to be sick? I'm touching. Overcoming my disgust, I gently touch its wet hair and watch as the head topples over. The face is contorted, the eyes bulging, the mouth open as though the head were still struggling for air. I pick it up without thinking, high on adrenaline, and then eyes open in the darkness. It's called, Werewolf, the Apocalypse, I think. And this one, there's different versions of it, I think, or different games. This one's called The Heart of the Forest. I have no idea what it is. I got it from Humble Bundle, so I wanted to, like, try it out, see what it's about. So, let's go to this. I can see their silhouettes, shades of jet black against the darkness. They smell of fur and moss and bloodied earth. Massive creatures, some with horns, some with antlers. Their eyes burn like small, fiery windows into hell. I look at them and something wakes inside me. Anger or panic? Anger. They tell me stories of their lost battles and dying hopes, and I seethe with anger. I can feel my upper lip curl, and the long, low roar starts deep in my chest. The roar changes into song as I lead them against the enemy. In a moment of clarity, I almost understand what the forest wants from me. And then I wake up. Thank you for sharing. I appreciate it. Every little bit helps. Chapter 1, Arrival. Maya. Maya? Maya. Maya, wake up. I jerk upright, irritated. My neck was stiff and the movement sent a sudden sharp wave of discomfort through my body. Yeah, it is Werewolf the Apocalypse. I wasn't in the forest anymore. I was in a bus, the sun streaming through the windows and making it hard to see. The girl next to me was touching my shoulder, disturbed. I push her away. What happened? I'm gonna be nice this time. What happened? Overcoming the urge to push her away was hard. Overcoming your wage, strange or willpower. Okay. She looked at me, concerned. Huh? Oh, camper. Steven's playing. He's fucking with people in Call of Duty. She looked at me, concerned. You were singing, I guess, in your sleep. I blinked. The memory of the dream was still there, and the overwhelming smell of the old forest. I looked outside. I must have bitten my lip, I thought, as I ran my tongue over my teeth. The forest outside the window was watching me. The girl next to me shook her head. Thank God, we're almost there. Her name was Anya. Ooh, I like that name. Anya. We'd met a couple of weeks earlier on the orientation day. She was from Norway, a tall, broad-shouldered, calm person who wore her long hair in braids. Somehow, I'd managed to talk her into this crazy field trip across the land of my ancestors. We were there to study medicine. She seemed excited. So this is a narrative game, which is fine. I haven't played one of these in a long time. Anya reached into her backpack and took out 2 apples. I'm really happy we decided to come here, she said. Yeah, I said, offering her some of my kabanasi? Dried meaty sausages that were so much better than the original Polish ones back in the US. I was glad Anya had decided to come with me. I had problems keeping friends around and really needed one. I know that feeling. I did some searching, she said from over her phone, and this place is amazing. The last primordial forest in Europe. This trip was totally my idea. Our summer language course was starting in a few weeks, and I'd managed to talk Anya into skipping the tours of concentration camps and old churches and visiting Bialauways. I can't pronounce that. That's a word I can't pronounce. It's a national park with me instead. So far, it's beautiful, she said, her eyes smiling. But why are we here again? Good question. Why were we there? From what I was told, we're Apocalypse group. It's like a digital tabletop game. Kinda, it's like a narrative, like a choose your path kind of thing is what it seems like so far. I've had it on my Steam playlist for a long time because I got it from Humble Bundle, and I decided that I was finally gonna try it out, and I thought, fuck it, might as well stream it. So here we are. Alright. Why were we there? There being, I cannot pronounce that, we're just going to call it the national park. There being the national park, a small village in northeast Poland. Oh, it tells me how to say it! Hold on. Białowieża? Białowieża. Yikes. A small village in northeast Poland near the border with Belarus. It was famous for its national park, the very last European bison. And according to a quick web search, occasional tensions between far right troublemakers and the local Belarusian community. My pronunciation is just so bad. No. Maybe it is Belarusian. The most honest answer would have been because I've been dreaming about the forest in Białowieża since I can remember. But people didn't understand when I said things like that. I looked her in the eyes. I kept it simple so I wouldn't freak her out. I told her as much as I could. I told her everything. I can't do that one. I'd never even heard of this game until it came across on Humble Bundle. Like, I knew nothing about it. But I am not surprised at all that you have played the demo and knew about it. I wanted to see the forest. I heard it was a must. That wasn't technically a lie. When I was little, my grandfather told me stories about the ancient forest full of wonders and the wolves that lived in it. It was all I got from that part of the family before my mom took me, ran away, and cut off all contact with my dad. But I remember the stories well, and I remember the name of the forest. Lord. Puszczabałowiecka. Good Lord. This will always be our home, my grandfather used to say. I waited for her to respond. Anya fell silent for a moment. I think it's great that you come from such a magical place, she smiled. The last ancient forest in Europe, thousands of years old. I wasn't sure if I was fond of that magic, but it was hard to ignore. And that was precisely why I needed to do something, anything, about my future. That damn forest and my weird-ass family. I like the dialogue in this game, because sometimes it's, like, super, like, I don't know, sophisticated almost, and then she says shit like that. I don't even know. What's my name? I wasn't paying attention. I had a clear goal in mind. I wasn't there by mistake. I'd planned this trip for months with a clear goal in mind. I had to face the forest. I had to learn the truth about my roots. I had to figure out my destiny. I had to learn the truth about my roots. My grandfather's stories, the secrets, my mother running away, there was a mystery in my past. It was time I uncovered the truth about who I was. But now, I wasn't so sure if it'd been a good idea. Your willpower dropped to 0. When you lose all your health or willpower, you become impaired. This will make physical tasks, if you have 0 health, or social and mental tasks, if you have 0 willpower, harder and sometimes impossible. Okay. Białowieża looked like an overexposed photo of a village with the contrast turned all the way up. The sun wasn't just shining, it was shouting at the earth. And everything, the trees, the grass, the wooden houses, the fences, seemed weathered. Everything except the shadows. They were sharp, as though they were freshly printed with the darkest of inks. And of course, they moved. Why wouldn't they? For a second, I could have sworn they'd moved, but then I realized it was just a black cat walking down the sidewalk. When it saw me, it stopped in its tracks. I'm gonna watch it with suspicion. Hey, do you think there are rabid cats? 'Cause this one is acting weird. I mean, there are rabid squirrels. Why not cats? She shrugged, looking around. Didn't you say your friend would be waiting for us? But he wasn't there. The cat was still staring at me. Let's go. Anya put on her backpack. I'm tired and I really need to find a toilet. I didn't know what to do. I was too tired and distracted to think clearly. My friend was nowhere in sight. I got a lot of rage. I don't want to do I stormed off, though. The meeting was too important. Let's just wait a little longer, I said. I don't have his number and we really need to meet up with him. His name was Bartek. Alright, we're in Europe. That makes sense. I'd met him online while researching Biowoveza. I have to do that every time. The man knew everything there was to know about local history. I asked him to check if anyone in town remembers my grandparents. I hope he's found something. I really need to pee. Anya said it like I was a 5-year-old and not a very bright one. Puppy dog eyes, cave in. Wasn't going anywhere. I'm not going anywhere. Fuck her. I said it's important. I wasn't going anywhere. Have it your way. See you at the B&B. Anya grabbed her backpack. I really can't wait anymore. Have fun. She winked at me and walked away. I feel like that was a passive-aggressive wink. I do. So I waited. And the creepy cat waited with me. Bartek was 15 minutes late, flustered and apologetic. It was his dad's company, he explained while catching his breath. He'd had to help him out with some paperwork. I'm not gonna be a dick, I'm just gonna be quiet. I took my time looking at him. It was the first time we'd met in real life. He was tall, broad-shouldered, that's exactly how she described Anya, and had freckles all over his face. Oh, yeah, there he is. He doesn't look broad-shouldered, he looks frickin' skinny. Come on, I'll take you to your place. His accent was broad and very Eastern European. I'm not doing an Eastern European accent for this dude's dialogue, because I don't know how. Questions? Anya would have liked him. Anya would have liked him. Anya would have taken an immediate liking to him. He was totally her type. But she wasn't there. Her loss. This chick's a dick. We walked along the only street in the village, slowly making our way towards the outskirts. The trees were growing denser, their scent becoming richer and more pronounced. Goal. Family. So, did you manage to trace the name I gave you? I asked. Bartek shook his head. Nothing, absolutely nothing. Sorry. He was avoiding my eyes. A trickle of sweat ran down his temple. He was lying straight to my face. What the fuck, man? I threw my arms in the air. You wrote to me a few days ago that you had something. But he just clammed up. You know what? I think you should drop it. I stopped. And unleashed all my charm. That's the one I'm going with. I turned to Bartek and looked him right in the eyes. I put a hand on his chest. I really had no plan after that part, so I panicked and felt a sudden urge to do something unnecessary and over the top. Okay, look him in the eyes. Kiss that boy. Fuck it, we got full rage, let's do it. I leaned towards him, and before he realized what was going on, I kissed him on the lips with all the fake passion I could muster. It was super awkward. Oh wow, Maya. You don't have to. His face was beetroot red. Sorry if I made the wrong impression, but you know, I like you. Tell me what you found, I asked, not giving up. The game tracks your decisions on how Maya approaches problems. They will accumulate and gradually reveal what kind of person she is. Deep in her heart. The story changes to reflect Maya's personality. Ah, so this has got multiple playthrough value to it, because you can use different reactions and get different events to happen. So that's pretty cool. Maya Borodic. Oh, okay. Well, he brushed his forehead with the back of his hand. I did ask. I started with the old people here. I told them that my friend from the States was looking for her roots and wanted to know about the place her family came from. You know the drill. At first, people were very, receptive. I waited for the other shoe to drop. And then I mentioned your name. He shook his head. Need a moment to calm down. Urged him to continue. Bartek, no dramatic pauses, please, I urged him. The tension is killing me. One of the old men here told me to go to hell, the other spat on the ground, and his wife crossed herself. Ah, good signs. For a moment, he looked younger and smaller, and then my own grandmother told me to stop asking. She said something else as well. What? I asked. She told me to pray for you. Suddenly, the sweet golden afternoon wasn't so sweet and golden anymore. Not furious. I knew there was something weird and twisted connecting me and my family to the forest. I could feel a shiver run down my spine. We walked in silence, but my mind was in overdrive. People didn't want to talk, and that could only mean one thing. Okay, hold on 1 second, I have to cough. My pulse quickened and I tensed up like a hound that smelled blood. I was on the right track. Every time you learn to do something significant that brings you closer to your goal, you regain willpower. Okay. Bed and breakfast. 1 second. Yeah, honey. Okay. Werewolf had a few hotels and hostels, but the preferred form of accommodation was bread and breakfasts. And that's where we stayed. I found one that was nice, clean, and that had good reviews. We had a room on the second floor with a huge window and a great view of the forest. Anya was there, already unpacked and chilling in the summer sun. I dropped off my stuff and freshened up a bit. Bartek said a few hasty goodbyes and disappeared, and Anya was nowhere to be seen either. The day was hot and I was restless. I decided to head out. Before you go, check out your character sheet. Info about Maya, her background, personality, and goals. Okay. Name, Maya Borodich. Age 24, profession student, nationality American. So far, she's inspiring, then brave, analytical, spiritual. Not a lot of cunning, though. Mind and body. Healthy. Learn your family history, pursue to regain willpower. People were scared of my family, they didn't even want to hear the name. Anya is sympathetic, Bartek is cautious. Family, it's complicated. I have to do it every time. Bayawoveza was a quaint tourist town, but I had other goals in mind. I sneaked out. Well, I'm here with her, I might as well bring her with me, right? The lay of the land. I had a clear goal in mind. My family was entangled with this town and the forest. I had to uncover my roots. Anya is going with me. Okay, so we can check out the forest or we can check out the town. I'm gonna go ahead and start with the town. Hey, there's Bartek. I walk around the village. When I realized that I had no idea where to go, I swallowed my pride and called for help. Bartek joins me. We walked through the village, bathed in the sharp rays of the summer sun. It was a lazy afternoon, disturbed only by the occasional passing car throwing up clouds of dust that hung in the air long after the vehicle was gone. Anya was walking close to Bartek, asking him about every little detail in the village. People were relaxing or working in their yards, dogs were barking, and every cat we passed froze to look at us. That's a bad sign. I noticed some unfriendly stares from people too. Not many, but enough to notice. I felt like they were looking specifically at me. Why the stares? I expected fewer stares. What you looking at, fool? What did you tell people about me? The stares made me snappy, because they sure look like they know that the girl from the cursed family is here. What? No, Bartek was dismayed. It's just people don't exactly love strangers here. I am coughing and it's fucking killing me. I took some medicine, but it doesn't seem to be working very well. I apologize. Xenophobic jerks. I was curious why. Yeah, tourists could be assholes. I gotta do it. I understand, I sighed. Tourists can be assholes. Yeah, but there's not only tourists here. Bartek scratched his neck, embarrassed by the topic. Oh my god, I'm gonna die. Give me just a second, take a little bit more medicine. The cough gets worse as the night goes on. Okay, maybe that'll help. A wee little bit of the medicine to soothe the throat. There's a small conflict around the forest, you know, and it's attracting some weird people. Activists, reporters, bored rich kids. He said it so his dad didn't own multiple businesses. People like that, and they're getting on the locals' nerves. Fair enough. I nodded. It didn't explain the cats, though. Well, you're not one of those crazies, and you're like almost local, he smiled. So, what would you like to see in the village of your ancestors? He spread his arms as if to show me all the splendor the village had to offer. Okay, so now we've got the old cemetery. Ah, and the cats are watching my every move as we move along the street. New friends, hidden tensions in the village center. Family graves, mysteries of the past, lost hopes, strange dreams. Let's check out the cemetery. We're kind of going for a family trek here. So, we have quite a few churches here, Bartek explained as we walked down the road. 2 Orthodox, 1 Catholic, and even 1 Baptist church, he said as though it were something uncommon. So I asked about it. Was there a synagogue? Seems like a lot of churches. Couldn't they all just use 1 building? I asked. Oh, I never thought of that. He paused. I guess they could, but you know, most of these churches have been here for some time. So we still use them. And we don't have a tradition of using the same building for different denominations, sorry. So it is what it is. Any Lutheran churches? Asked Anya. I don't think so. Bartek shook his head as he led us to a small wooden church surrounded by a cemetery. Anyway, even though we have all these churches, there's only 1 cemetery. The church was Orthodox, but the graves were a mishmash of styles and faiths. Catholic, Orthodox, atheist, everyone resting together. I actually kind of like the poetic thing, but I'm worried about losing my rage. I'm gonna go with this one. Bartek looked like he didn't fully approve of such an arrangement. And what kind of person are you? I asked, crossing my arms. Bartek blinked. Me? Catholic, of course. Of course. He looked at the cemetery, and for a moment he seemed lost in his thoughts. All of my family lies here, he said. I mean, the ones that are dead. Hey, what do you think? What do you think happens when you die? Straight up. Gotta be honest. Oh, now Bartek doesn't like me. Nothing. Religion is just a bunch of superstitious crap for stupid people. That was what my mom taught me, and at the moment, I believed it completely. Bartek looked at me, hurt. Hey, that's people's beliefs you're talking about. Well, they're stupid beliefs. God damn, Maya. He looked over the cemetery fence. Well, anyway, this is it. The spiritual heart of Beowaveza. We can go see something else if you'd like. So that's where we stood. I wanted to go in, and that asshole stood in my way. So that'll be minus willpower. I don't want to lose any willpower. What the fuck, dude? We're here to find my ancestors, I growled at him. Maya, behave. Anya was clearly not amused. Bartek shifted uncomfortably. I don't know if that's a good idea. But why? Oh, he's definitely hiding something. You found it. My family's grave? Maybe. So what are we waiting for? Anya smiled at him. He mumbled something and led us through the labyrinth of graves to the far end of the cemetery. We walked through the narrow walkways between the graves. Bartek's pace was painfully slow, but I had no choice but to follow him, gritting my teeth and cursing under my breath, as he stopped every few steps and looked around. At one point, he threw me a condemning look. We're in a graveyard, Maya. Have some respect, will you? He barked. Before I had a chance to answer, we saw a woman. Tall, broad-shouldered. What is with Maya and the broad shoulders? That's how she's described literally every person in this freaking story so far. Anyway, tall, broad-shouldered, long-legged, legged, with grayed dreadlocks pinned to the crown of her head. She must have been in her late 40s or early 50s. She was marching through the walkways with fury in her eyes. Bartek quickly stepped between the graves to get out of her way. I'm gonna ignore her. I just kept going, and she just kept going, and inevitably we bumped into each other. Hey, watch your fucking step, she growled. And of course I'm gonna snap back, because fuck her, she ran into me. See? Fuck off. You watch your fucking step. She snorted and weighed me up. Kids, she mumbled and shrugged. Well, at least you're able to speak up for yourself. I'm gonna talk to her. Did you find your thing? Okay.
No, but
I'll find him. No, I mean, did you find the baggie?
Yeah.
Okay. We chatted for a while, and I decided to ask her for directions. Actually, I'm looking for an old grave, I said. My family lived here, and... What's the name? Oh, Lord. Okay, so her name is Borodich, so that's gotta be the same thing. The same pronunciation, or close to it. Borodich, I answered with the perfect Polish accent, which I do not have. Don't know what the fuck that word is. Young Borodiczonia? I don't know. She used an antiquated feminine form of the name. She shook her head. I'm just coming back from there. Go to the end of here and turn left and go to the far corner of the wall. She looked at me in a funny way. Just thank her. She helped. Oh, thank you. Bartek didn't seem to know the way. Sarcasm. I think it was only then that she noticed him. Oh, it's you, she said with barely... Never mind. Barely hidden disdain, so she's like, oh, it's you. Well, I'd better be going. See you around, I guess. With that, she left, followed by Bartek's hostile gaze. Let's find out about her. Who was that? I asked, watching the woman leave. Bartek winced. Oh, that's Olga. She's a local activist. Well, you could tell that by the dreads. She left Białowieża when she was 18 or something, and returned a few years back with the notion that she was going to change this place. We continued to the far corner of the cemetery. There, seemingly forgotten and covered in moss, was a lonely grave. The tombstone was broken, deliberately. Someone had obviously smashed it with a hammer. Oh, that's nice. The plaque was also damaged. Someone had tried to scratch out the name, but the letters were still visible. There was a circle of coarse salt around the grave. I'm sorry, Bartek sighed. I didn't want you to see that. What superstitious bullshit. Let's try this one. Is it because you asked about me? I asked through clenched teeth. He shook his head. The first thing I did when you gave me the name was come here. It was already like that. Anya squatted and looked at the plaque. I can't read it. The letters are all wrong. She glanced at Bartek. Is it Russian? Belarusian? The same letters, different language, he explained. There were a lot of them here before the war. Bartek put his hands in his pockets. So, you don't know anything about your dad's side of the family? He asked me cautiously. Whatever happened at least 70 years ago, and someone still remembers. Well, 70's not that long ago. I don't know them. My mom left my dad when I was just a kid, so I don't remember much, I admitted. And she kept me away from them. She doesn't even know I'm here. I didn't tell her that I was visiting Biowoveza. I know I'm saying that wrong. Maybe he was abusive? Said Anya carefully. You have those violent outbursts. Wow, nice. Yeah, I guess. I looked at the grave for the last time. My family's name looked strange, written in unfamiliar Belarusian letters. As we were leaving, I was thinking. I was on to something. There was something unnatural about my family, and me coming to Beowoveza, you'd think I'd remember this by now, had stirred some old demons. I just had to find out what my ancestors were doing there. Who were they? With that thought, I left the cemetery. The day was hot and beautiful, yet I couldn't stop thinking about the devastated grave. So we can go to the village center and the abandoned railway. Let's go ahead and hit the village center, see what that does for us. I'm trying to drink often so my throat doesn't keep going. Okay. This is such a nice village, exclaimed Anya as we walked along the quiet streets. Nothing moved. The heat was stifling. Bored. Village was quaint. Paper towels? I don't know. You'd have to ask your kids. I don't know where they're at, honey. We've lost the paper towels. They were in the kitchen because I used them. It's quaint, I carefully admitted. Is that a nice way of saying it's a shithole? Bartek made a disgusted face and we burst out laughing. Let's get something to drink, I proposed. I'm parched. Good lord. The local store was a large mini-mart with all kinds of goods, from beer and vegetables to notebooks and pens. There was a bench near the entrance, and on it were a few local drunks. Nice. They looked like they wanted to start a fight, but when I stared them down, they just averted their eyes and pretended there was nothing to see other than their cheap alcohol. Let's assess the threat. They're drunk and no threat, I said, assessing the situation. We can always walk away, and if they try to stop us, all it'll take is a firm push, 1 or 2 kicks, and then we can make a run for it. Why do you even plan things like that? Anya shook her head in disbelief. My stepdad sent me to a self-defense course when I was 12, I shrugged, to help me with my anger management issues. We spent some time inside, browsing the Lithuanian, and the Belarusian goods. Why was there almost nothing Polish here? And who in their right mind drinks coriander soda? Ugh. I was putting the soda back on the shelf when we heard a commotion coming from outside. Some slurs, some curses, and a clear mockingly polite. I'm so sorry, darlings. I don't understand. Do you like my skirt? Ah, fuck, Bartek murmured under his breath. I don't know what it is, but I want in. Hey, Bartek, I said, pushing the items I'd picked into his hands. Pay for me, will you? I'll give you the money back in a minute. Before the poor guy had time to answer, I was outside. There's the trick. You need to do these things before people can react. Then they always say, but you didn't stop me. It was clear what was happening the moment I stepped outside. There was the bench. On the bench were the drunkards, hurling obscenities, and right next to them was the awfully polite target of those obscenities. The person was old. Not helpless granny old, but old, with deep wrinkles and a narrow mouth. They had the unisex grace of a tired, heroin-preserved rockman. Their shoulder-length, disheveled hair completed the look. Okay, so which one is that on my picture here? Is it the chick with the spiky collar? I totally dug their style. They had a peculiar style, fashion that you'd rarely see, even in the US. It looked great on them. They had a clean shave and eyes highlighted with eyeliner, so it's a dude, apparently. Um, their nails were painted in bright blue. They wore heavy army boots and an outrageously red skirt, a tank top, and lots of leather jewelry. And on their bag were pins, lots of pins, all kinds of LGBTQA plus flags, anarchist and pacifist symbols, and I think some German band stripes. I'm gonna approach these drunks. I ain't scared. I zeroed in on the drunkards. What do you think you're doing? I asked in Polish. Oh, hey, she speaks Polish. This was a sentence I'd heard a lot as a child. Zoti Vipravash? They looked at me, surprised. They hesitated as if someone was whispering in their ears, coaxing them to violence, and my appearance made their voice shut up. And who the hell are you? Asked the one who seemed to be the leader of the group. Oh, I am punching him, absolutely. I'm the girl who broke your nose. I answered with a grin. What? And I punched him. And then I broke his nose. I love this girl. Maya! Shouted Anya, shocked. But I didn't listen to her. This wasn't my first rodeo. I got into fights all the time. I nodded my head at the person by my side. Let's show him. My ally smiled, and I threw my first punch. The stranger, but wouldn't it be the second punch if she broke his nose? The stranger in the red skirt, who also wasn't new to such situations, could only admire the way they used their heavy... I could only admire the way they used their heavy army boots. We kicked their asses. Oh, we definitely kicking their asses. I ain't gonna be losing for no willpower. We punched, we ducked, we kicked. Some bloodied knuckles were a small price to pay for victory. But before anything serious could happen, there was a piercing, irritated shout. Hey! Someone said suddenly from behind our backs. The voice was loud and piercing, and there was something about it that made the men stop immediately. It made me pause as well, but the stranger in the dark red skirt seemed to stop out of politeness, not because of the sheer power of the voice. Okay. The woman approaching us had the longest, thickest braids I'd ever seen, as thick as my arm. But there was something faintly Asian about her facial features, and the men on the bench looked at her with deference. What the fuck is going on here? Kim, are you insane? And you, she pointed her finger at the men, you should stop drinking that moonshine. It makes you pick fights you can't win. She looked ferocious. She looked ferocious, and the drunkards started explaining themselves. But look at this Elzunia, I assume. And one of them, gesturing towards us, said one of them gesturing towards us, for the last fucking time, the name's Lisa. She pronounced it Lisa. See, I thought that was going to be the case. Lisa. And this is my friend. You're to leave them alone. Got it? Her Polish sounded weird. More melodic. Or maybe mellower, even when she cursed. The drunkards mumbled and went back to drinking. Thanks, Lisa. Lisa. Kim said in English. You shouldn't have. Oh, but I wanted to. Oh, come on. You're such a buzzkill, I groaned. We were having fun. There's nothing fun about fighting weaklings, she answered in English. She looked me up and down. And who would you be? I'm Maya. I came from the US. Oh, are you here to protest the logging? She raised her eyebrows. Or just a tourist? Why were they logging in a national park? That's a weird thing. Wait, isn't this place like a national park? I asked. Why are they logging here? You'd think they'd leave the oldest forest on the continent, the beating heart of it, alone, wouldn't you? She looked at me with a grim expression. There's illegal logging here, Anya chipped in. Wood is money, and there's plenty of wood in this forest. Suddenly, a feeling rushed over me. I couldn't see the forest from there, but suddenly I felt very aware of its presence. I also felt something else deep in my stomach, spreading through my veins. Anger. Like a wave of heat coming from the heart of the dark, ancient forest. A word appeared in my mind, a strange one that was neither Polish nor English. Kalgira? Kalgira? Lisa looked me in the eyes and spat on the ground. I'd eat those greedy bastards alive. I felt like I was being watched, and when I looked up, I saw Kim observing me with a curious expression. We haven't been properly introduced, they said in a soft voice. Ah, they. What? I snapped. You're looking at me in a funny way. I know you have strange dreams, they whispered. I suspect the forest is reaching out to you. They leaned in closer to me. It runs in your blood. The words were like a punch to the gut. Trust me, I know. Shit, I'm gonna have to earn willpower back, because that's the answer I needed. Who am I asked quietly. You know how stories work, they said, looking me in the eyes. You'll figure it out. I felt a sudden surge of confidence. I wasn't making that up. There was something strange in my family history, and there were people who knew what was going on. Before I could ask more, Anya and Bartek approached and Kim shook their head, silencing me. Meet us tomorrow at the logging site. They blew me a kiss, but put their arm around Lisa and walked away. We decided to leave as well. I just want to look and see. So that's only 15%. We've been playing for about 50 minutes. But I don't know if I can just quit or if I have to save. I kept looking over my shoulder, but no one was following us. I'm gonna go ahead and do the abandoned railway, and then probably cut part 1 here. Bartek wants to show us the most picturesque spot in the area, said Anya. Maybe that's not the right word, he said, frowning. Well, it's not like it's that beautiful, but it has, you know, an atmosphere, a climate. Ambiance. Ambiance? Anya said in the same moment as I, and we laughed. Ambiance, Bartek smiled, visibly relieved. I meant ambiance. We soon left the village behind and ended up on some abandoned railway tracks. The perfect place to meet a serial killer. I crumbled looking at the overgrown tracks disappearing among the trees. But with the slow, winding river a stone's throw away and the long, drooping branches of the old trees shading the unused railways, that place really was picturesque. The bees buzzed around us, the birds sang like there was no tomorrow, and the fragrance of herbs hung thick in the air. My head was spinning. Bursting with energy, remember the song. I'm gonna do bursting with energy. Let's race to the trees, I shouted, and before they could react, I was already running. Do easy win. Keep my willpower. I started with the jog and gradually sped up, but they never caught up with me. It was only when the shadow of the trees engulfed me that I stopped and looked back. Bartek and Anya were way behind, walking at a leisurely pace, talking and laughing. Jerks. Fucking let me run. I heard a noise and turned around. A woman was standing among the trees. It was Lisa. How did you get here so fast? I couldn't help but ask. There are shortcuts. She didn't elaborate. She smiled. Since we're alone, I have some advice for you. She looked the way I'd come from. Don't get too attached to your friends there. It won't last. I didn't know what to say, so we just stood there looking at one another. Do you mind if I join you? She asked when Bartek and Anya approached. Yes, I did mind. I noticed Bartek getting tense. Sure, I don't mind. Sure, I smiled. I was about to forage for some plants in that direction. She lifted the basket she was holding in her hand. The path was too narrow for all of us to walk together, so at some point I found myself walking with Lisa. She would squat from time to time and collect some herbs. So you're looking for your roots, she said after a while. Why? There's a story. Oh, I got more inspiration. There's a story here, and I need to hear it, I answered honestly. Sit down with me. She nestled among the roots of an old tree, reached into her basket, and took out a blunt. Let's have a smoke, and I'll tell you a story. She noticed when I hesitated. You need to hear it. Excuse me. Lisa let out a cloud of smoke and started talking. From what I learned from Bartek's grandma, you're asking the wrong questions about the wrong people. Her voice was so soothing. I was asking about my family, I pointed out, but not the right branch of the family, she said. Your grandfather wasn't from this village. This is a tainted land, girl, she continued. So much blood was spilled that Puzka? I can't pronounce that. Was almost lost her mind. What? Who is this? Who are you? Puzka was one of the words for forest. Polish had lots of those, but she used it in a weird way. Why do you call the forest Puzka? Isn't lost the right word? I call her Puzka because it's her proper name, she huffed. Las is to Puzka what dog is to wolf. Domesticated, enslaved, used. Puzka is the primeval forest, one untouched by humans, primal, strong, and feared. There was admiration in her voice, and I realized that the word sounded like the rustle of leaves, like the wind. Pushcha. So I was close. As I was telling you, Pushcha almost went mad, and it's not wise to wake those spirits, especially not now. Not afraid to stir up shit. Do you mean the spirits of the past? I shrugged. I'm not afraid to stir up some memories. She looked at me with those uncanny eyes. Her gaze was almost unbearable, hard, with anger smoldering somewhere deep within it, ready to jump at my throat. And then suddenly, something changed. Lisa sighed. You have no idea, do you? What do you mean? I asked. So you have no idea who you are, she stated. Nobody told you what it was like here during the war and after it. Her eyes lost focus as though she was looking at something only she could see. In 1939, when the war broke out, first came the Germans, then came the Russians. You know, they actually worked together. Stalin never forgot that he was beaten by the Poles in 1920. She shot me a glance. Dang it, I'm gonna use it, because I don't want to be a jerk. Now I'm impaired. I didn't really care, but I nodded politely. Oh, you have no idea what I'm talking about. It doesn't matter, really. She took a drag. Anyway, many millions of lives later, Stalin and Hitler stopped sleeping together, so to speak, and the Germans came, and then the Russians again, and then there were the forest soldiers. Forest part got my attention. I nodded so she would continue. The forest part got my attention. They started as Polish soldiers, but then the war ended and they became guerrillas to fight the Russian occupation. And then they ended up as desperate bandits, she sighed. For the people who lived here, they were all the same. Germans, Russians, forest soldiers. They killed, they maimed, they tortured and burned villages. It didn't matter what language they spoke. Thanks for the history lesson, I said, but where do I fit into all of it? My great-grandparents were from here, she sighed after the war. There were some changes, and my whole family was sent to Siberia to die. My grandfather was the only one who survived. Grandmother, sorry, grandmother was the only one who survived. She met a Buryat shaman, and here I am. But your story is tangled with all of this. She looked straight at me. Have you ever wondered what your grandfather did during the war? Oh my god. And of course, that was the moment when the weed finally hit. That stuff was powerful, and for a moment I wondered if she hadn't spiked it. I tried to stand up, but a flux of smells and sounds and visions hit me like a wave, and suddenly I was somewhere else. We're sitting around the fire, deep in Pushka. We've discussed, and a decision was reached. Tomorrow we're going to burn a village. But that night, I'm telling stories of times that passed, of times before the war, before the fires. The others listened in silence, the last quiet moments before the storm. In the darkness among the trees, wolves gather and listen to my voice. I really like this, like the ambiance of this little picture on the side. Thank you, Celicia. When I came to my senses, Lisa was still looking at me. I got defensive. If I understood what you're saying, I looked at her. Something from my family's past cast a shadow on my future. She shrugged. Thank you for sharing. I've told you everything I know. If you want more, talk to my girlfriend. We'll be at the logging site tomorrow. Getting some willpower back. So I've progressed my goal. I will, I said. Now I finally knew who and what to ask. There you are, Bartek waved to me. I thought I'd lost you. Thank you for share spam. The village. The bison statues were watching me with their creepy painted eyes, as though they knew me. We called it a day and went back. The B&B. Blah blah blah. The B&B was quaint. I left Anya and Bartek outside. They looked like they needed some time alone to say their goodbyes. When I got out of the shower, Anya was back, smiling and a little flustered. What a day, she smiled. So, what do you think? I made a quick mental inventory of everything that had happened that day. I'm gonna tell her about Lisa. Something weird happened when I was talking with Lisa. I think it was her joint, but I saw some things. It looked like something from the past. Like, from your past? For a second, I searched for words to explain it to her, but I couldn't really. I think it was my grandpa. It's hard to say, but it sure was weird, I shrugged, ending the topic. I can't believe they're logging here, I shook my head. Isn't the forest a UNESCO? UNESCO list or something? Oh, like a protective thing, yeah. Yeah, I know. I want to check out this protest people were talking about. Maybe we could go there tomorrow. Remember the shop? The tension seemed almost unnatural. I didn't think people in Poland normally pick fights so easily. Maybe they just envied Kim's style, Anya tried to joke, but she seemed worried. What happened here that people are still vandalizing my family's grave? What did my grandfather do? Anya is neutral. Well, nothing good, that's for sure, she sighed. I remember the burning village in my vision and decided not to argue. You know what? I'm seriously tired. Let's just call it a day, shall we? Soon we were both in our beds, ready to sleep. I was tired, sure, but also excited. And excitement isn't the best for sleep. I lay there for a while, thinking about everything that had happened and that might happen next. The wind from the open window lapped over my skin as I watched the silver rectangle painted on the wall by the moonlight. When I closed my eyes, I could still see the weird vision I had that day. My roots were here. I could feel them, almost touch them, and they were reaching to me. I should go and see the logging protest. I felt that the answers I was looking for were within my reach. I just had to go and see the logging protest, meet the right people, make them talk. After a long while, all these thoughts became blurry and they slowly started to turn into pictures, sounds, and colors. A night in the woods. The railroad tracks remember times of their glory. The trees around them whisper about forgotten secrets. I feel the excitement rising deep within my stomach, then throughout my whole body. Oh, I'm a weapon. I am a razor-sharp knife. I am a sword. I am a gun waiting to be fired. I'm asleep for now, but soon someone will use me and I can't wait. That's kinky. I feel a pull and I surrender to it. I am pointed towards a clearing. There are piles of fresh corpses of people who died too young, skinned and mutilated. Their loved ones stand around them, grieving, unable to do anything, waiting. And suddenly, they are just trees and tree trunks. I look at the moon and I howl. The trees are dead, and I'm the only one left to sing their story. There is a stench in the air like meat rotting in acid. That's super specific, but somehow worse. I see the monstrous army. Their mandibles are whirling chainsaws. Their long metal arms are wrapped with black pipes that look like glistening intestines. Their smell is vile. They wait, unmoving. The dead don't hold answers, and neither do the machines. I walk between the trees, trying to hear their wisdom. They whisper to me, telling me to look at the sky. There, between the stars, two shapes circle each other. An old, sad wolf with gray hair and a white weasel. They keep their eyes on one another, and as they continue their dance, suspicious, but not hostile. We need to fight the enemy, the awful, rotting stench. I know that much. But how can we do that when we don't trust each other? They stop. They look at me and the clearing. I want to be with them in the sky. I try to jump, but suddenly my legs feel weak. They descend to the opposite side of the clearing. One by one, other shadows join them. I stand in the middle of it all. This is like so weird. Can I... Okay, there we go. So I'm at 20%. I'm at the, chapter 2, I think? Chapter 2 or chapter 3, I didn't see what it said. So our girl here, Maya, has made her way to Europe. She's trying to find out about her family. She's meeting all kinds of crazy people. Lisa seems to have answers. But I'm going to go ahead and call it because I'm at an hour. And Stephen is cooking, so I'm going to eat. This is a really interesting game. I didn't realize it was going to be like such a narrative where it's just reading and decision making. It has potential for replays, but I don't think I'll replay it once I beat it, or stream it, I should say. I'll probably replay it, but I won't stream it. Not bad though. I might pick it back up again when the kids go to school tomorrow and try to get through it. It took me about an hour to get to 20%. So I'm thinking this is probably going to be a 3 or 4 parter. But I'm interested. I really like the dialogue. I really like this kind of back and forth, past and present thing it's got going on. I think it's pretty sweet. Pretty neat. But other than that, I'm going to go ahead and call it. Don't know if I'll be streaming anymore tonight. We'll see. For everyone who shared and liked and commented, thank you very much. And I will catch you on the next one.